There we go.
Don't do that.
I started training a neighbor at 5:15 in the morning this week. So I am a little tired.
Yep.
Oh no, now you're doing it.
You made me.
That can be our intro,
your
just
fault.
us yawning. A montage of us yawning. You never know.
I promise we're awake, you guys. Promise we're awake. Hello, and welcome to Middleish, the podcast about moderation in all things. I am Erin Green.
And I am Michael Gray.
Good morning.
How are you?
It's morning for me. It's not morning for you.
Yes, it is barely afternoon for me.
Although I have seen you yawn multiple times since we've been on here together, so I'm guessing it still feels like morning. One long, endless morning.
So yeah, so here's the deal. I recently started training somebody in person in her garage just on my street at 5:15 in the morning. And today is day 2 of that. And I am not at all adjusted yet, either in getting up that early or going to bed early enough to get up that early. So I'm pretty tired. Yeah. And I used to do it all the time. I mean, honestly, 3 or 4 days a week, I was at the gym by like 5:15 and fine, but it's been a while. Yeah. I took a nap at 8:45 this morning. I think it was. It's like, I just need 20 minutes. Otherwise it's going to be a long day.
I've been there. Where I would get up and swim at 5:30. So I'd have to be on deck, ready to get in the water at 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple mornings I would come home and I'd have breakfast and coffee and everything. Like I'm going to get my day started. And I'm like falling asleep at the table.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I need to go lay down for a few minutes.
It was weird. I had another session at 9:30 and I set my alarm. I think I woke up like at 9:10. It was a 20-minute nap. And I was like, man, I just took a full on nap and it's like not even 9:30 in the morning. This is kind of weird. But yeah. So lots of coffee.
Yeah. I was going to say, where's your Care Bear mug?
You know what happened to the Care Bear mug? Okay. So I got it when I was a kid. So I'm 40 now. So I'm guessing it's 33 years old, like it's been around a while. And just from like, if we ever made like hot chocolate or anything in it, stirring it, and I think just being in the dishwasher, all of the inside kind of lining was coming off.
Oh no.
I was like, I don't think I should probably drink out of this anymore.
Oh no.
It's probably like, cancer or something waiting to happen, drinking all this coating.
Shards of ceramic, pieces going down.
It went in the trash. Maybe a couple months ago now. It's kind of sad.
Oh, sad. Rest in peace, Care Bear mug.
I should have kept it and made it like a little plant pot or something, but it's too late now.
Yeah, it's gone. In any case, I'm sure you have another mug. World's greatest dad or whatever.
You know what I do?
Oh, coolest dad.
This is what the world's coolest dad looks like. And I drink out of it and it points to me. Yeah.
Did you buy that for yourself, just like Michael Scott? Bought his
What's
mug?
that? No, actually, Lila got it for me several years ago. But if I saw that, I'd probably buy it because I'm like, obviously,
the coolest dad.
Clearly.
Duh. Of course.
And then I have another one that just says hubby that Kathleen got me for Father's Day.
Oh, right. Yeah, we've talked about that.
Those are my 2 mugs that I drink out of. Yeah.
Well, more coffee, my friend. Wake up.
Yeah, I might have to make another pot because this is the end and I've got about 4 sips left, maybe 6.
That's a sad time. You know what's even worse is when you pick up your coffee mug to take the last sip and you already did that the previous.
Yeah, I usually do that like 2 or 3.
That's heartbreaking sometimes.
Yeah. I usually have like 2 or 3 where I'm like, well, maybe it pooled together. It all ran down finally. There's a little sip left.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah. So how are
Well,
you?
I
Are you
wonder,
tired? Are you yawning today?
I kind of am. I have not been getting the quality or the quantity of
Mm,
sleep that I'm used to getting. But I'm hanging in there probably better than you. I've
yeah.
managed to have one cup of coffee and be functioning all
Nice.
right. So,
Nice.
yeah.
There's a podcast called Middleish, and they did an episode on sleep. You should
Oh,
check it out.
I
Yeah.
should
You should
listen
give
to
us, yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're pretty cool guys. Yeah. I like them a lot. Yeah.
Are they guys?
Well, not guys. They're cool people. Yeah.
Good save.
So, yeah. That's what I meant.
I'm beginning to wonder if we should add coffee or caffeine intake into today's topic somehow, because I do think that there's a place for
Mm.
caffeine and coffee
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
today's
People,
topic.
well, just in
It should be
general,
number one.
just in
Just
like
drink coffee. Rule number one.
yeah, right. Just in general. I mean, I think coffee has so many benefits, and caffeine, it gets you up and going, and
I was
yeah.
I was going through, like, years ago when I first got very serious about triathlon. I was going through
Mhm.
some experimental sort of, maybe I should not drink as much coffee. So then when I need the caffeine, it's on board and it, gets me like amped up and going and wakes up my brain. So I would have these early morning runs with my group of girlfriends that I'd go with at like 5:30, and I just be dragging. And I remember telling one of my good friends that I was feeling kind of like, down and dumpy lately on these morning
Mhm.
runs, like just not really interested in going and not real happy about it. And usually I love it. And she was like, I'm happy after my first cup of coffee. Always. Like and I was like, oh, maybe that's my problem. So I
More
started drinking,
coffee.
a little cup of coffee before I go for those early morning workouts, and it helps a lot.
It
So I
does.
recommend that.
It does. I do too. Yeah.
But today's episode is
Mhm.
the top 5 ways to hate exercise. And
Do you
so
want to hate exercise? Have
I
we got the
really
plan
think
for you?
we could totally add a sixth one, and skipping coffee before
Right. Yeah.
exercise is probably like,
It's a
should be on the list.
it's a bonus one. That's yeah. That's for our VIP members. They get the coffee bullet point.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we've talked a lot about habits and routines and how to enjoy the process, and a
Mhm.
lot of different factors that play into sustainability with health changes, exercise,
Mhm.
nutrition, diet, whatever. And I think this is a very common one where exercise has this perception for a lot of people that it has to be a terrible thing and you have to
Right.
hate it. And these are some of the pitfalls that Michael and I often see
Right.
with our
Yeah.
clients or
Yeah.
with our friends, or we've probably experienced all
With
of these at some
ourselves.
point or
Yeah.
another. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, obviously we're being a little bit tongue in cheek with this, like, hey, here's the top 5 ways to hate exercise. But at the same time, um, a lot of people go into, embark on a new exercise journey or whatever with that mentality. Like you said, Erin, like, this is going to suck. I'm going to hate it. Or, I can't tell you how many times um, I've had, initial phone calls with brand new clients, and they're like, I hate lifting weights. I hate cardio. I hate da da da.
Mhm.
And it just all sucks. And so, sure, we can do this, but just so you know, I'm going to hate every minute of it.
Right. But I'm not going to like it.
I
I'll
won't
do
like
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that definitely plays into whether people will stick with something or not. We hear those kinds of sayings all the time
Hmm.
that the best type of exercise for you to do is the kind that's sustainable, that can,
Hmm.
be consistent, whatever
Yep.
that looks like for you.
Exactly.
So we're going to go through these and talk about some of the things that we've witnessed or experienced ourselves, and we'd be interested to hear if any of you have stuff to add to the list. or any of your own stories of how you made adjustments in these
Yes.
areas. We would love to hear it.
Yes, we
So
would.
you wanna start with number one,
Let's
Michael?
kick it off with number one. Okay, so number one of our top 5 ways to, I feel like David Letterman, top 10 list here.
I know. We need like a
Number
little
one.
drum roll.
Countdown. We need a band. Yeah, we need a
We
bigger
need a
budget,
lot of things.
don't we? Oh man. Yeah. So number one is to make it difficult or unenjoyable. And I think that's a place that people often start, is that assumption that this is going to be really hard. It's going to suck, and I'm not going to enjoy it at all. Now we can talk about, maybe in a different episode, that mentality coming into something like that, right? Where there's the assumption that I'm going to hate this.
Well, we did talk about what happens when you tell yourself something's hard.
That's true. Yeah.
You guys could refer back to that episode. We kind of dove into that, but you're right. Like how that sets you up to approach what the task ahead.
Is that the Middleish podcast?
That is the Middleish podcast with
I
the guys you mentioned earlier.
I love those guys.
One of them sounds like a female. I don't know.
Oh man. Yeah. I walked right. That was, yeah.
More coffee, Michael.
I'm sorry. But so back to my point. I think, and there's a lot of ways that this can look. And, right off the bat, I think one of those is jumping into something that is way beyond your ability level. Something that's not scaled down to meet you where you're at. And we talked about this a little bit. Was it an episode or two ago, just with nutrition, right? And that we try to go from like, I have no mindfulness, I have eating no vegetables, into doing all the things. And I think people often take that same approach with exercise. And it's like, okay, I've been sitting on my butt and haven't been active at all, right? Haven't been doing anything for 6-8 months, 2-3 years, but I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump into it in a high level CrossFit class, or a really high impact group class, or I'm going to strength train 6 days a week for an hour. Right. And it's like, we go from zero to just, pedal to the floor. And there's a lot of problems with that.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to get really, really hurt. And two, it's going to suck.
It's just going to be really hard.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unenjoyable.
And not in a good challenge hard kind of way, in a, you shouldn't be doing this kind of way.
Yeah. I think there's different realms of that difficulty. And I guess, this could be make it too difficult or unenjoyable for you, because of course, whenever you start a new routine, and you actually made a post about this the other day, that be prepared to not be great at it for a while, so if you do take up a new sport or something, but I think there's also a caveat to that if you're going too far and pushing yourself too much too quickly, it depends on your personality. It depends on, like you said, your current fitness level. If you are just off the couch, or I've actually seen this with people who are like lifelong athletes, and then they take a huge break, and then they go back to said sport, and they expect their body, 10 years later to perform the way it did when they were in their 30s or whatever. And you just have a different body now. So if you do set that standard too high, or if you do throw yourself into something really difficult, it's very possible that will just jade your entire outlook on this new endeavor you have.
Right.
Another really common one I see on the unenjoyable front is those people who say, I want to become a runner. And I'll ask, well, do you love running? And they say, no, I don't.
I actually hate it.
I hate running. And okay, so on one hand, you could learn to love running. Running is hard. Like if you have never had that running volume and that form and the impact on your body, and it can be really hard and unenjoyable until it's not. And we'll get to that one a little bit later.
Yeah.
But also, if you just really there's nothing about running that you like, why force yourself to do that?
Right.
activity.
Yeah.
I think the number one reason is people tend to see running as being a really high calorie burner, and they see like the physique of runners, and they want
Mm-hmm.
to look like that. Like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
be a runner because that's what a runner looks like, and running burns lots of calories, and running is really fit. Well, running isn't for everybody, and especially
Yeah.
if it's not enjoyable for you and you hate it, like
Mhm.
that's one way to just make exercise on the whole be,
Yeah.
a really crummy experience, and you probably don't want to continue.
Right. And I think it's really important, I mean, obviously as a personal trainer, I find immense value in strength training, right? Like I think everyone, no matter your goals, no matter your age, no matter where you're at in life, whatever, I think people will benefit tremendously from it. That being said, if someone comes to me and is like, I really don't like weight training, okay, I'm not going to force you to do it, right? Like we're going to find other ways to be active that can help you move towards your goals. And what we'll see a lot is, which I think is really exciting, is that people begin to engage in other activities that they at least enjoy to a degree, right? Well enough
Hmm.
to do. And
Yeah.
they begin to see it becomes less about the activity and more about like self-care. And like
Hmm.
it's, yeah, I enjoy that activity, but along with that, I'm really starting to just kind of fall in love with taking care of myself. And then beginning to open up and see that, okay, part of taking care of myself is doing some things that maybe I'm not super crazy about, but I can buy into and I can do to kind of help feed into that bigger picture. And what I've seen often is people kind of come around and go, I remember you telling me about all the benefits of strength training, and thank you for not making me do it. But I think I'd like to try.
Yeah.
I think I'm at a place now where I can do it. Yeah, I may not be super crazy about it, or I think I'm not going to be super crazy about it, but I've got this sort of like um, pattern and history and momentum of just taking care of myself and not having it just be about what I want to do, but what do I
Hmm.
need to do today? What do I need to do in my week? And a lot of times people come around, but I think
Yeah.
it is important, especially when starting. You need to do things you enjoy because if you
Hmm.
don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it, you know?
And ask yourself, how can you make this more fun? It could be just engaging in a totally different activity than you
Hmm.
thought you were going to start with, or
Hmm.
bringing it down a notch so that it's reasonable for you to do. It might still be a challenge in some way, but
Hmm.
depending on your level or where you're at, this could be a way to actually keep bringing you back for more. Remember that consistency is really key. Um, Listen to music, I mean, gosh, people have gotten so into things like Zumba, where you're
Hmm.
literally just dancing around the room to
Yeah.
music. And
How
that's
great is
that's
that?
my kind of fun. Like,
Yeah.
let's do that. And it's a workout. Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of value to that.
Hmm.
um Find some friends. I know it's hard with COVID, and a lot of people love the class environment and being there, to meet their class or their workout group, but
Hmm.
think about things you can do outside, or in a safe way, in a distanced way, that you can
Hmm.
have that sense of community. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of look at, how can I make this fun? Some people are totally driven by competition.
Hmm.
I'm one of those people. So I love having
What?
like I know, surprise.
I had no idea.
so so I love having that little piece of competitiveness. It doesn't always have to be there, but
Hmm.
man, I can get on board real quick if there's some kind of little, touch of
Hmm.
a competition, or, how can I measure up either against my own standards or my former self, or
Right.
against like this, group.
Yeah.
So think of ways that you can make this fun. It doesn't have to be overly difficult or
Hmm.
unenjoyable.
Yeah.
So,
I think too, it's got to fit in your life, like, I mean, if you're having to, miss breakfast with your kids and that's really important, or miss a soccer game or family time, whatever, or if it really pinches you for time and it's a real negative disruption to your day because of your scheduling or the time commitment, that kind of stuff. That's another way to just make it really miserable and unenjoyable to do. It's got to fit in your life. And yes, I think there is an argument for, I mean, all of us have all of our time taken already, whatever we're doing, right? So we're going to have to make some sacrifices to make a new thing fit. So sure, there's going to be some sort of disruption, interruption to your regular daily or weekly routine. Erin just fought back a yawn. She held that baby in. I saw it. Nobody else can see it, but I saw it.
Yeah, as long as I don't start yawning so loudly into the mic, but
yeah. But like there is going to be some disruption. That's the way it is to take on any kind of new routine or habit or anything like that. So yes, but if it really makes life just more challenging for you, if it makes it more difficult to get all the things you need to do in the day to get them done, it's
yeah,
just
if the trade-off isn't worth it, then I remember consistency is key. So so number 2, that was kind of a long number 1, but that's a really important one, and that one actually overlaps with several of the others that we have. But number 2 is making it too rigid. And this can happen if someone hires a coach or a trainer. There is definitely a getting to know you period when you hire somebody to help you with this. And so that, you have to communicate that to that person. But also I see, like you mentioned, CrossFit. I think that some people will get into, this shiny new routine or sport that they want to try out. And that is like the end all be all of what it takes for me to be fit. And I have to hit CrossFit. I have to go 5 days a week because that's what all the other people are doing, or I have to do exactly these types of moves. Telling yourself that you absolutely have to do a certain program or exercise to a certain intensity and at certain times is just, again, it's that inflexibility that will yield inconsistency for you.
Yeah. And I think too, 100% right. And just to tack onto that, even just duration of exercise in a single setting. In fact, I've had a couple conversations with clients this week about that very thing. And it's, whether we tell ourselves, this is what I'm going to do, we've made a commitment to ourselves or to me as a coach or whatever. And then if I'm unable to do that 45 minutes or whatever, well, then I'm failing, right? Because that's my only option, is to do this set amount of time that we talked about. And I, as the client, said, I feel like I can do this. And that's that, again, that all or none thinking that we've talked about a whole lot, right? Like if I can't do all of it, I might as well not do any of it. It's pointless. And to have that kind of rigidity to a schedule or to a program or anything is really going to set yourself up for feeling like you're failing. Because sure, it's great to have a time commitment, and to want to shoot for that. And maybe you hit that 99% of the time, but stuff's going to happen. There's going to be days where it just doesn't fit, or times where it's like, I only have 20 minutes today. And if your only option is to do all of it or none of it, but you have 20 minutes, well, you're not going to do anything. Right. Where if you can have the flexibility of like, well, okay, shoot, maybe this is a bummer and maybe I'm kind of frustrated about it, but I can still get 20 minutes in or 10 minutes in, or honestly, 5 minutes. I had a conversation with a client this week, and she was just like, things are blowing up or going through this whole new software system at work, and things are kind of a mess at home and And she's like, and I just feel like I'm failing because I'm not getting in my workouts and And so we just kind of talked through it, and we came to, just an understanding. She was like, I have 5 minutes at my lunch at work on my lunch where I'm just kind of killing time. She's like, I could just do like some squats and some push-ups on the wall and maybe walk around the building a couple times. And I'm like, that's perfect. Right. Because I think that does a couple things. Well, I think it does maybe 3 things. One, it really combats that all or none thinking. It really reinforces, hey, doing what I can is all we can do. That's everything.
Doing something is better than doing nothing,
Yep. And then it also, I think it reinforces just looking for opportunities to invest in ourselves. right? Even if
Mhm.
they're small ones, because those small ones add up and they're incredibly important, right? And then I think it just kind of like it exercises that muscle of just of doing something, you know, of okay, maybe I can't do everything I wanted to, but I'm going to do what I can when I can. And if that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 3 minutes, whatever. And I'm going to just sort of like practice this discipline of doing what I can, doing what I can, doing what I can. And
Mhm.
I really think that whether you're doing what you can within 5-minute increments or an hour increments, that discipline and that strengthening that muscle of just doing what you can, it plays into a whole bunch of things, right? If it's in 5-minute increments, it plays into when you have an hour to do what you can,
Mhm.
and it's that intentional being, that awareness, and just kind of a different mindset that you get to sort of strengthen and reinforce.
I definitely think this one uh, yields the more perfectionist approach to
Yeah.
exercise, or what I have seen in my athletic endeavors and my training is that just unrelenting adherence to the training as written and as
Right.
prescribed. Now, yes, you're on a training program. For those of you who are training for something specific, a marathon, an Ironman, a mountain bike race, or whatever, a lifting competition, you have that program in place for a reason. So keeping the integrity of that program is really important. And whether you're working with a coach or a trainer or not, that person can act as a buffer when you're starting to get to that space where you're like, type A perfectionism is coming out, and
Mhm.
I've got to do this exactly this way. um, a lot to what you're saying, Michael, is there have been numerous times where I have a specific, ride on my schedule and it just does not fit with my day. And I can't, for whatever reason, I can't do it. Now, I could kill myself trying because, trying to be in
Right.
two places at once or be late to this appointment or, go to work sweaty without a shower, which I've done
Mhm.
before, but it's not helpful for me in those
No.
situations. It took me a long time to realize that rigidity and just, you prioritize what you can. And if most of the time you're sticking with that training plan and that schedule, again, the consistency is there
Right.
and the integrity of the plan is there. And you're hitting the really important pieces of the workouts and the
Mhm.
important pieces of the week with those
Mhm.
workouts, then you can have some flexibility and realize that, man, if I do a 1 hour ride today instead of a 2 hour ride, this isn't going to make or break my performance on race day. I've
Right.
got some other
Yeah.
pieces I can move around. I can work with a coach. Um, and this can apply even to the weekend warriors or the people that aren't even training for anything specifically.
Mhm.
But if you tell yourself that there is no flexibility and I absolutely have to do this, and you make it too rigid, it's very likely that at some point you're either going to end up miserable and feeling like you're failing, or you're
Right.
just going to quit and be done. Like, I'm just not going to do
Absolutely.
anything with the 5 minutes that I have,
Right.
on my lunch.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
then I think it positions, working out, exercise, whatever, as the problem instead of part of the solution.
Yeah.
If there's no flexibility with it, then it can become the problem really quick. I have to do this thing, but it doesn't fit in today. And so now it's problematic. And
Hmm.
if it becomes problematic, it's going to go away really fast. It just is. And so if it can be flexible, and be something that enriches your days and your life when it fits, now it's part of the solution, which is where we want to keep it. We want to keep it part of
Hmm.
the solution to whatever you're trying to fix and keep it
Yeah.
away from being a problem. But as soon as there's no flexibility, it's real problematic. Yeah.
Hmm. And number three,
And
you
number three.
already touched on this one, but I think this is another one. I mean, we could go really deep on this one, but we've talked about telling yourself what you tell yourself when something is hard.
Mhm.
If you're telling yourself that exercise will always suck or that you'll always suffer,
Mhm.
that is a surefire way to hate it. I mean,
Mhm.
what you tell yourself matters. And I've said that before, and it applies to a lot of things. I don't think people realize how their thought process actually impacts
Right.
their overall view of whatever activity or whatever change is in front of them. But if
Mhm.
you tell yourself, like, what Michael was saying under the first one, if you make it too difficult, or if you make it unenjoyable, if you tell yourself that, so you've gotten into an exercise program, or adopted this new sport, and you just tell yourself how much you suck at it, and how this is always going to be hard, and I always suffer when I go for a run. you know First of all, that's not true, because
Yeah.
we are capable of learning as
Right.
humans.
And getting
Your
better.
muscles learn, your muscles grow, your muscles get stronger, your joints will adapt. There are a lot of pieces at play here that show us that there is a progression, and especially for those people who are new to the fitness world, you're likely to have a more linear progression than
Mm,
someone who has been in the fitness world for a long time, just
right.
because your body is going to make these adaptations a little bit quicker. Your trajectory is steeper.
Hmm.
um, there's a saying that my husband would always tell me during triathlon, that it never gets easier, you just get faster.
Mm.
which is
Was that
true.
Lance Armstrong? Did he
I
say
don't
that?
know, is
Or was it
it?
Greg LeMond? I think it was one of
Oh,
those
geez,
cyclists.
probably. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think.
Um, that is a true statement. When you're working towards something in terms of, like, hitting a certain running pace, or
Mm,
whatever, maybe climbing that hill on your mountain bike, and it never really gets easier, but maybe you just keep doing it a little faster.
right.
At the same time, you also have to realize, in the broad scope of fitness, the fitter you are, the more options you have for easy
Hmm.
activities and for easy intensities.
Hmm.
So if you are a fitter person and you put in that consistency and that time, you really do have more options to bring it down a notch and still engage in some kind of activity or exercise, but at an easier level. So not
Right.
everything is always going to feel hard and
Right.
like you're suffering.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, there's, back on that, it's always going to suck kind of thing. There is sort of mentality in a large part of the fitness industry that it should always suck, right? Like if you don't
Yeah.
like puke or pass out, you didn't work hard enough,
We'll get into
you
that one
know?
next.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that is kind of next, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm jumping
But
around
no,
all over
same
the place
same kind
here.
of thing. No, you're like, you're on it. All of these things
Yeah,
tie into each other.
they do. But so I'm going to say it anyway, because there's
Go
plenty to
for it. You're
talk
already
on the
headed
next one.
there.
Um, and it's just that I think that's a really foolish way to go about things. And kind of like we said, and I think it was the last episode, if you're following people who are perpetuating that kind of stuff, stop following them, right? Because
Mm.
if you're going into exercise with the mindset that I've always got to push it to this extreme where it's got to suck and I've got to suffer, um, you are really setting yourself up again to not do it very long or to
Mm-hmm.
to injure yourself. If it's
Mm-hmm.
always got to be extreme and you've got to be in a puddle of your own sweat, wanting to throw up and pass out, man, it's probably not going to last very long. Now, that being said, is it kind of fun to do that once in a while? Really push yourself. Sure, it can be kind of fun and you feel very accomplished, but it does not in any way at all have to be like that, even frequently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's back to that just consistency that we talk about all the time. If we
Yeah.
just do some things well, we do them consistently, you're gonna find yourself a lot further down the road.
Yeah. And I like the phrase that suffering is optional. There's a piece that comes before that, but man, I'm not very good at my quotes today. But
That's right.
the what I mean by that is that, what you tell yourself matters. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
telling yourself that suffering is like a state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
if you're suffering, you can shift how you view this hard thing that you're doing. And in with exercise, there are those listeners, I'm sure, that are training for, very high level athletic events, or they're athletes, for their lifetime. And so they're
Mm-hmm.
always like setting athletic goals. So it's a little different than that person who's just starting an exercise routine and has no idea.
Yeah.
But if you're suffering all the time, like you were saying, if you're telling yourself that this
is the
is like a
way.
suffer fest, yeah, this is the way, versus, you know, using a different mindset. Like, I remember when my coach would put workouts in, my last coach that I worked with, Marilyn Chakota, would sometimes put workouts in where she would say things like, as hard as you can, which to me spoke to my effort that I was delivering in this moment.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like giving me this very specific like number or pace or something to hit. Instead, it was turning it into my own, you know, effort and discipline to put it all into this workout. And it changed my mindset. So it wasn't viewed as suffering. It was more like, what am I giving? Like, can I give more? How much am I giving here?
Right.
So just keep in mind that those little nuances in what you're telling yourself and how your brain is kind of perceiving the activity can really make a difference. Or saying like, this is challenging, or this is a stretch for me, like this is a big push, you know, stuff like that, instead of like, I hate this sucks, and you know, it's always suffering.
Yep. So I'm 40 years old. This is the place in a lot of people's lives where everything kind of starts going downhill, right? Like strength starts losing, you know, metabolism is dropping and activity levels drop down, right? Whatever. And I'm staying pretty active, and you know, I'm still, you know, building some muscle and working hard in the gym and stuff. But I can't tell you the last time I suffered in a workout, right? Like, yeah, I work hard, and sometimes it's not very fun, and sometimes it's kind of uncomfortable, you know, because my muscles are fatiguing and I'm trying to push myself and stuff. But as a 40-year-old guy, I'm still making progress in the gym, and I haven't suffered for a long time. And the older I get, honestly, the less interested I am in really pushing myself to those kind of miserable places once in a while, you know? And there's a big difference between pushing and doing something challenging and suffering. And yes, if you want to go to new places, yeah, you're going to have to step into some hard things, and you're going to have to face those, and it may be uncomfortable and it may not be super fun all the time.
And you might suffer a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. But there's not that like misery in this, right? There's not that like I have pushed my body to such an extreme that I'm going to have a physical response, like I feel, you know, faint or nauseous or things like that. It's really, really not necessary, you know, like, not even is it just not a great idea. It's completely unnecessary. So, anyway,
I think there's, and I can think of a handful of, you know, top athletes that would argue against that, and even coaches that would say like, you know, you definitely push yourself to that place. Again, I really look at it a little more as a mindset. Like, depending on your goals, you're going to run into those inevitable, like really hard tasks that might be like a complete sufferfest, especially if your body is tired and you're trying to push, you know, the limits of your fitness. I do really believe that how you talk yourself through that and how you view those sessions when they are coming up in your programming, or you know, if you're engaged in those sessions, you can decide how much you're going to suffer through that, or how much, you know, effort you're going to put in. So yeah. And this speaks to the next one, that you touched on this earlier, but we'll talk a little more about number 4, being using exercise as punishment, which I think really segues from that whole, like, you know, telling yourself that you're always going to suffer doing this activity. Some people like actively seek out that suffering in some, you know, masochistic kind of way.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at this punishment piece. I think for some people, there's like a punishment for just kind of like how they've been living life, right? Like there's for the last several years, I haven't taken care of myself. I haven't been active. I've gained, 60, 80, 100 pounds, whatever. And so now I have to like pay a price physically for my quote unquote, in their mind, like misdeeds, for how I did things. I was bad. I
Right.
did things wrong, that kind
Pay
of stuff.
your penance.
Right. And then I think there's also just kind of not such a macro scale, but more on the micro is like, um, well, I ate 3 pieces of pie on Thanksgiving. So I've got to get into the gym Friday morning and punish myself for those extra calories. I had, a couple extra drinks on Friday when I went out with friends, and so I've got to go pay the price for that. I'm going out to dinner tonight. So I've got to make sure I get in the gym and pay my penance ahead of time, because it's all about mitigating, any quote unquote damage from having extra calories or anything like that. So it's kind of like this punishment to atone for our sins,
Right. Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of compensatory, I think, messaging that happens
Mm-hmm.
in social media, in the
Mm-hmm.
fitness world. I think we talked about, like, for the Thanksgiving episode or holiday eating, when we talked about those things that say, like, okay, if you eat this thing, it equals however many burpees or whatever.
Right.
So that leans itself to that
Mm-hmm.
compensatory behavior where you have to make up for XYZ.
Right.
I think also, we've talked a lot about already the enjoyment factor, the
Mm-hmm.
consistency factor,
Mm-hmm.
the psychological factors and things that you tell yourself and how you view your process with exercise and fitness. If you're solely focused on weight loss and burning calories, this is probably going to feel more like punishment than it will enjoyment. If
Right.
you are totally focused on the outcome with your weight and how I can, burn that extra calorie, it really becomes this like quest to just continually, you know, go down that path. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
can I burn more? How can I lose more weight? How can I just get that extra pound? And that really does turn into this punishing,
Mm-hmm.
compulsory type of behavior, which is
Mm-hmm.
not helpful either.
Right. Well, and again, it positions exercise in a really unhealthy place, because with that line of thinking, the only point of exercise, right, is to lose weight or manage calorie intake
Mm-hmm.
versus there's no benefits just physically for my mood, for my digestion, for for to age well, to continue to be
Yeah.
strong, to
Being able to
not
get out of the car without
yeah
effort, like,
get
I
on the
mean, there's
ground and
simple
play with
things,
grandkids,
activities of daily
or
living. Yeah.
yeah, maintain strength, recover from surgeries and injuries quicker. There's all these benefits, healthy metabolism. I think I said mood already, mood.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but there's all these things that are just part of taking care of yourself and just having good self-care and investing in yourself and caring about you, that none of those things matter when exercise is punishment. When exercise, the only point of it is to, kind of mitigate calorie intake.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of that other stuff is out the window, right? And exercise becomes just like a weapon to fight food, right?
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people are. It's just a weapon to fight food with, and as opposed to just this wonderful way to spend your time and be a much healthier person.
Yeah. And I didn't think about this when we came up with this list, but this one could also work in the reverse, where if you view exercise as punishment, it's not enjoyable, and this is something to mitigate those calories you're taking in, which every human body needs calories. It could flip flip your view of food into, oh, I hate exercise so much, or it's so punishing that in order to do less of it, I'm going to eat less, or I'm going
Right.
to, start changing all of these other, dietary
Mm-hmm.
behaviors to make sure that I don't have to do as much exercise.
Right.
Rather than what you're saying, Michael, is all of these positive effects of exercise and all of these enjoying the process really,
Right.
instead of just focusing on the outcome. So all of those
Yep.
things we talked about, making it enjoyable, grabbing friends, having music, being flexible with it, realizing that, it's not an all or none game,
Mhm.
and, telling yourself that it's not always going to be hard. It doesn't always have to be a sufferfest.
Mhm.
Those are really important factors, so that you paint this picture that exercise is not always punishment.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up the outcome piece. And we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
this before quite a while ago, I think, but it's come up a lot is that, you know, um, do we focus on behaviors or outcomes?
Yeah.
And if we focus only on outcomes, like if the point of exercise is only to, help manage calories and lose weight, well, then what happens when you're not losing weight? Then exercise has
Mm,
zero value. Why am I working so hard? If the scale didn't go down this week, what is the point of this? And
mhm.
it takes this thing that has such a broad, such a wide range of benefits and narrows it down to one thing. And if that one thing isn't happening, people aren't going to do it. Because I
Yep.
mean, if you have one outcome that matters with exercise and that's not happening, why would you continue to do it? You're not going to
Mhm.
at all. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid and punishment was, you know, one of those things, I would avoid it. I wouldn't actively seek out punishment.
Right.
So,
Hey, can I
I
get
mean, some
spanked or
some people
grounded?
might. Give me that bar of soap. Ah, you know.
I think some people might seek out spankings, but
Okay. Yeah, that's in a different podcast. Maybe find
right.
that one.
That'll be next episode.
Okay, and number
Number
5
5, moving
is
on.
if you never take rest.
Mhm.
And I had originally thought about putting in never take a break,
Mhm.
but I really think that a break almost sounds like, a cop out or kind of self-indulgent. Rest is, we're hearing more and more about enough sleep, enough rest, enough self-care, enough
It was
downtime to
intentional.
give yourself. Yeah, it has a much more intentional
Mhm.
connotation. And I think that we could look at this on both a macro and a micro scale. So, on the micro scale within the workout, um, people don't quite realize that fitness gains are not made when you're actually doing the hard work. It's actually
Mhm.
made when you allow your body some recovery and rest. So
Mhm.
having very specific like intervals, if that's your thing, if you're going to, have a super structured workout, or if you have a rest day worked in, or a couple rest days or easy days worked
Mhm.
into your programming, those are really important.
Mhm.
And then on the macro level, giving yourself some time away from, if you are the type of person that like, okay, the only time for me to fit my workout in is early morning, and I get up and I do this, and it's kind of a grind, because you do the workout, you get to work, and, if you need a little time away from that and you need a
Mhm.
rest, and that's helpful for you and it brings you back refreshed, and your body physically will thank you because
Mhm.
it's able to kind of repair and rebuild a lot of things, that is super important too, and that will only yield more longevity, and that, again, that consistency with the exercise. So make
Yeah.
sure you give yourself some rest.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good point because I hadn't really thought about just within the workout when we first talked about never taking
Mhm.
rest, but it is really important. There's a saying in the fitness industry that fatigue masks fitness, which is if you're tired and you're run down, you're not going to perform as well, right? And so if you are, let's say, you're strength training, but you're doing, you know, 2 exercises back to back to back to back to back, and you're just all you're doing is you're demonstrating your fatigue. You're not demonstrating any strength, right? Versus if you take a minute or a minute and a half in between exercises, let your system recover. Well, then you can go into that next exercise fresh. You can actually get the reps that your body's capable of getting when it's not masked with fatigue. You can demonstrate the quality of form that your body is actually able to do when it's not masked by fatigue, and
Mhm.
these things yield better benefits, better
Mhm.
outcomes. And so it is really important. Now, sure, is there a time and place to maybe do things quickly together and just kind of build up that fatigue? Sure, absolutely. But for the most part, no. You need to recover so you can demonstrate strength. You can do things well. Same thing in life. We don't make the progress we can make when we're just going. If we never have a day off, if we never take, maybe a week or so, just to kind of recover and give ourselves a break mentally and physically from kind of that grind, um, we just don't have the longevity.
Yeah. And I think people who I've worked with that have a newfound appreciation for their health, their physical health, right? They've made nutrition changes, they've made lifestyle changes, they're getting more sleep, they're taking more of an active role in their physical health, will often view those rest days or periods of time away from exercise. So not just a day, like maybe somebody takes a week or 2 weeks or an entire month off because, they've got all this other stuff going on. They'll view those times as being unhealthy.
Right.
Like, this isn't a healthy thing for me to be doing. And I mean, granted, I will say that moving your body daily is probably a very healthful practice for almost everybody to engage in. And I said moving your body daily. Okay. So that's not the rigid, punishing, hard,
Right.
Exercise that we've been talking about. So taking time, though, to give yourself some rest and attend to other things in your life, other priorities, maybe attending to some, high emotional stress that's going on. Maybe we haven't talked about injury or pain, but that's another thing. Like, if you physically are experiencing some kind of like pain or problems, or if you get sick, that rest is really important for your long-term health as well. And so I think it's really important for you to look at rest in a positive light and not just, I'm taking time away and I should be working out because that's when, the exercise is what helps me be healthy. Well, yeah, to an extent, but there's other forms of, rest that will help you too.
Yeah. Rest and recovery should be a very big factor, in your routine, your program. It should be, a tool that you used often. And, I think sometimes people mix up like rest with like being lazy, I just, and I think it's a difference. They may look the same, in some ways. I think there's a different mentality behind that. Rest doesn't mean just like not doing anything, but it does mean giving your body a chance to repair itself and to recover and to stave off potential injuries from repetitive use and that kind of stuff. It's really a critical piece to a sustainable long-term approach, which is what we want.
Yeah. And one last thought on that is that rest can look like a lot of different things. So back to the injury piece, I know a lot of runners that will get injured. They have a knee thing or a hamstring thing. I mean, you name it. And taking time away from the running could be the rest. You could still ride your bike. You could still go swimming. You could maybe do some yoga or like strength training or something that is not running. And that time away can bring you back with a refreshed feeling, mind and body. It gives your body the proper time away to heal that injury. There's absolutely no reason for anybody to continue to drill themselves, especially in just like the general population. I understand you love your sport, right? I've been there. Like, I get it when you have to take time away, but also try and view that in a positive light. Like, there are other things you can be doing during that rest period.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Because I think, it can kind of keep that love for what you're doing alive a little bit better. You come back. I mean, I'm thinking, not that I've taken any vacations recently, but when we've gone on vacation before, usually if we go on vacation, I don't do any strength training or working out. I take it off. And when we come back, I'm like, I'm ready to get to the gym. I missed it. I'm ready to go. You kind of have a renewed vigor and interest in it, which is, keep the love alive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there you go, you guys. Your top 5 ways to hate exercise. We hope that you do the opposite of all of these things.
Don't do anything we just said.
Yeah. And please, share your stories and experiences with us. I mean, I know several high level athletes that listen to this that could probably have a lot, of experience to share. And then I know a lot of people who have, discovered exercise or are even thinking about getting into it. And maybe these are some of the fears that they have. And so, here's some ways to navigate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Good job, partner.
High five.
High
five. So you got a mean in the mundane?
I will have to come up with it.
Okay, so how about you come up with it? But yeah. I'll come up with mine while you come up with yours.
Oh, well, I could just say one, so
no, just kidding.
This Sunday I had a meeting with a work colleague and then I was meeting a friend for a walk, a former coworker. And then I got home and my husband announces that friends that have a new baby are going to come over and we're going to, go stand around the fire pit with them. And then our neighbors ended up coming over.
Oh, nice.
So I have been feeling very socially isolated and frankly struggling with that. There are some weeks when I just don't I don't get a text from hardly anybody. I don't hear from the outside world. And it's either me and clients engaging or it's me and my email engaging and then Matt and the cat, so there's like not a lot going on.
Sounds like a kid's book.
Yeah, I know. Matt and the cat. So all of these activities were done outside. And because I'm very, I have kind of a hard line on this, distancing and with the pandemic and masks and all of it. And so I met for coffee outside at 8:30 when it was like 22 degrees and we're in blankets and like beanies and down jackets and all this stuff. And then I went for a walk outside with my coworker. And then I get home and I'm literally like ice to the core.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, so our friends are going to come over with their baby. And I'm just going, I literally can't bring myself to go stand out there right now because I'm frozen. But I did. Yeah. And I had made chocolate chip cookies. So that makes things better. Nice. And then our neighbors, I came back inside after our friends left. And then our neighbors ended up coming over and standing around the fire pit that was still going. And I was like, I have to go back out there. So I guess for me, this unenjoyable thing of being freezing freaking cold. And there would be a time in my life when I would draw the line and just be like, no, I'm staying inside. Like I'm done. It's not worth it. I'm realizing that my needs socially and just to feel a little bit of normalcy in this craziness right now, in a safe and responsible way, I'm willing to trade off some of those creature comforts,
right.
Because it serves a purpose in another, aspect of my mental health and my life. Right. So that Sunday was really unique. It would be in any other year, it would probably be a pretty standard, like, oh yeah, you meet up with friends, you go to coffee, you go do this. But because everything had to be done outside and because I've been so starved of that kind of interaction, instead of looking at it like, a burden or, uncomfortable thing I don't want to do, it ended up being a very soothing and fulfilling kind of experience. Nice. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Nice.
So and now I'm warm again. So we're okay.
Now you're warm again. I don't know if you could hear that. So we're just keeping it real here. No, it's Sophie.
Oh, is she singing?
It's my 4-year-old. No, she's not singing. She's throwing a fit.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Nope.
Okay. Maybe it didn't come through. Let's hope not. Right as you were saying anything, I was like,
oh no.
So yeah. Hey, we're just keeping it real here, right? We keep it real on Middleish. So if you heard that, everything's okay. There's not a child in danger or anything.
I didn't hear it, so I don't think anybody's worried about, calling you in.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm here, so it's cat's fault. It's not my
Yeah,
fault.
I know. Blame mom.
I've got an alibi. So for me, mine was just on Monday. Kat and Sophie were gone for a little bit, and Lila had her PE time during school. 10:45 in the morning, and a lot of times they send just some things for her to do or whatever. And usually she does those, but on Monday I was like, "Hey, do you want to skip that and just go for a bike ride instead for PE?" And she was like, "Yeah." And we've been having just amazing weather here. Like winter here is gorgeous. I think it was like 58 or 60 or something that morning. Blue skies, not a cloud in the sky, right? So we hop on our bikes and we just go ride into the neighborhood for 15 or 20 minutes. And we just had, just she's such a cool kid. We just had these awesome conversations about a wide variety of topics, and it's just cool to see how she views the world and people, and hearing her opinions on things and stuff. And so it's just like this, hey, I kind of want to get outside, let's go ride our bikes. It could have just been a quiet bike ride, but we just had these awesome conversations. And it was this chance where I just feel like as she gets older, I feel like it gets harder and harder to connect with her, or at least it happens more infrequently. And so anytime there's that, okay, we're getting each other, we're tuned in, it's really amazing. And it was one of those moments where, we were just very dialed into each other, and she was kind of opening up to me and being, just herself. And yeah, it was a really cool moment. So that's mine.
I like it. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, from every parent I've talked to, you have to really cherish those those moments as the kids grow, because they grow into their own selves. And, you may not always have that openness and connection, but so enjoy it when you've got it. That's
when
great.
they start changing in ways that aren't as obvious, you know what I mean? Like with Sophie at 4, when she develops, cognitively, it's really obvious. But Liza's at the age now where you don't really notice it until it's like, oh, okay. You've already done this, this, and this. I just missed all those because, for whatever reason. And so it's weird how it's there's just these big jumps, with her. And it's like, oh, I missed some stuff. Dang it. I didn't know you were here. I didn't see this one coming, but yeah. Anyway.
Well, good luck with that when you're walking her down the aisle someday or whatever, because
let's not jump that far. Jeez, Erin. She's going to leave you someday, right? Thanks. I was having a good Wednesday.
No, just meaning you'll have this snapshot of this entire trajectory that she's been through with her development and coming into herself. And it's super cool just to take notice of those moments. And, even if you don't see every single step along the way, you're there for it all.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You redeemed yourself. I'm less mad at you now.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you for listening, you guys. And please share this with someone. Give us some feedback, subscribe, rate us wherever you listen. And we really appreciate the support.
We really do. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day.